she had us, both of us, absolutely around her finger. Fundamentally, she achieved this through the way she looked at us. It shouldn't have been a surprise that the way she moved her head to one side should leave me basically on my knees, or more akin, I should say, to a slightly tepid pool of just water. But what was most surprising was the effect it had on him. Anything she wanted to give to her, anything she demanded, he agreed to. And he agreed to everything with that same little smile on his face. The smile of a man who, in actual fact, was little more than 4 years old. I'm not saying I wouldn't have agreed to the same and more in his position, but it just seemed downright surprising coming from him. He wasn't that kind of man. He was a soldier. What else he was, he used to be between 1968 to 1984. He was a soldier in the British infantry. He reached the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, and this was when, doing a tour of Northern Ireland was more than just a few games of pool and a chat with some kid outside of a fish and chip shop. Some of the photographs he took. He used a Polaroid camera, and some of the things that, after he had a few drinks, he'd get out of his box to show me. You wouldn't have thought that they were of Northern Ireland. There was something about them that I found in some way surprising. He refused to talk about South Georgia. He never mentioned it. I asked him about it one time, and his face turned within a matter of a few seconds, literally gray, slate gray. And even when he eventually retired from the army, he retrained as a math teacher, for Christ's sake. I would have liked to have seen him teach. I can kind of imagine the kind of teacher it was. I don't think it would have worn many cords, and I don't think they would have shared too many coffees with the sixth formers. Come and play with me. Read me a story. Can I sit on your lap? Where's Grandpa's? Ah, there he is. Not his kind of sin, but he did it with her. The first thing I learned about photography, I learned when I was a kid. If you're taking a portrait photograph, if you possibly can, and take it from below the subject, it actually renders the subject oddly. What it does is it renders them not more heroic, not more godlike. It actually renders them more human. And if you can take it in natural light, if you can capture the way the light starts and falls at the start or at the end of the day, especially, then it can be. He used to try to convince me of the existence of and the relevance and the discovery of the practical uses of the irrational number that is commonly and historically and internationally known as pi. That is 5 decimal places. The number 3.14159. Well, I used to say that this is irrevocable proof of the existence of God. It's just so illogical, he told us, that it could ever work, that he must just prove that there is something more than us, and it's incredible that we can discover it. And it proves something. I think he's wrong. I told him, I think you're wrong. I told him, for someone so palpably intelligent, Arthur, sometimes you think like your head's full of wool. He liked me. He never got too cross. We talk about beer together, and he never bothered about me coming from. He watched an unusual amount of tennis. Everything was tennis with him. His whole conversation was peppered with tennis metaphors. Sometimes I'd watch tennis with him. I never liked it much. Is it a terrible thing to say that sometimes the company of man is kind of comforting? I don't mean it to sound, I don't mean anything other than he had a house in the eastern suburbs of Toulon, in a town called Carcarène, in the south of fucking France, for fuck's sake. And when I go there with Helen for the first time, we drive in a car. And it's just a kind of mix between being a bit embarrassed because ostensibly, at least at that time, we're kind of socialists, and being really fucking proud because her dad has a house in the south of France and she's taking me there, and she's paying for the ferry because I'm skint. She keeps going on about how odd he is and how she has a feeling that she thinks I like him. And I do. And she says she really likes this about me. I like people. People like me. They think I'm gentle. I had absolutely no idea that people thought I was gentle. And she says she really likes this bed. This bed is one of the best bits in a man, she says. Which is a phrase that just about sends me completely in love with her and her nose and her smile and everything. Lucy was a cesarean, and when Helen's giving birth, there was a moment where I thought she could have died. And I'm a bit embarrassed now, but when I had to go into the toilets to change into my what are they called? Scrubs, is it? Well, when I had to change into my scrubs, I did have a bit of a cry, and when I did, I did ask God, who I don't fucking think is even there in the first place, to make sure Helen was alright. I said we can survive if we lose the baby, but I don't think I could make it if she went and died on me. It's like talking to a photograph or a mirror, it has the same effect. Which isn't to discount it completely, but it's not God. When we go to his house for the second time, after we've been going now 2 years, he takes us diving. He became a big fan of scuba diving in the 18 months that me and Helen have been going out, which is maybe a surprising character development in a man of his age. But he's a surprising man. Between Saint-Tropez and Île de Porquerolles, there are, he says, actual shipwrecks that you can actually dive on. Would I like to join? I've never worn a wetsuit before, and it takes me longer to get into it than I hoped, and it makes me feel a bit fat. Then he tells me he's going to take me to the sea wall. I ask him the what, and he says the sea wall. That makes no sense to me at all. There's a wall in the sea. It drops down hundreds of feet. I had no idea that the bed of the sea was built like that. I thought it was a gradual slope. It brought these little bags with bits of bread, and you hold them upside down to swim, so the bread doesn't float upwards, and then it takes us to the wall. And swimming there with the sun above us, even as bright as it is, even then, the darkness that the fall, that the sea, the wall in the sea reveals, is as terrifying as anything I've seen. You come back to the surface, of course, and the idea that there ever wasn't a seawall in the first place is a bit embarrassing, frankly. I mean, what did I actually think the seabed was made of? When I was giving birth to Lucy, the midwife calls to me. She's like, "Daddy, do you want to see your baby being born?" And they've built a little tent, and I look over the edge of the tent, and I'm one of those people who I never know where to look when people point things to me. It's like I'm a kid and I'm driving along and mom says, "Look, a kestrel," or "Look, a plane," and I don't have the faintest idea what to look at. I just nod and smile only and say, "Oh yeah," but I'm completely lying. And that is a bit like that. Mainly, I see the yellow of the inside of her stomach. Once you've seen the inside of somebody's stomach, your relationship probably then moves to a new level. But I love her completely, with every bone and bit of skin of me, and it's been very rare the times in our relationship where she's cried and I've comforted her. I'm fucking crying all the fucking time. I can't watch an episode of ER without just being a wreck. I cry at ground force when a person comes back and and they've had their garden done up as a surprise. Um, we've been going to his house for holidays every year. 3 years straight, we drove all the way down from London without stopping. We we took it in turns driving, and we kind of promised to share navigating, but neither of us needed any help. We did it fine. But when Lucy was born, we started flying there though, because the driving's not fair on a baby, and you'd pay for the tickets. We you can get flights for Carcassonne, like for dead cheap, but he would pay for us to fly into Nice, and then he hires a car once we got there. The first time he sees her, he takes her by surprise a bit. He looms over from behind her, and he's wearing these glasses, these big old glasses, and he's a very tall man, and so he looms over from behind her, and he takes her by surprise, and she screams like living shit. Oh, believe me. Oh. Took her about 3 weeks to recover from that, but she did. And then she'd start with shuffling across the floor to reach him, and putting her arms up and making little noises that basically mean put me on your lap and read me a story, you funny old fucker. I don't care if you meant to be weird. I don't care if you meant to be scary. I don't care what anybody fucking thinks about you. I want a story, and I want it now. She starts wearing cardigans, and it's me done for. One time, I look at him and I say to him, if there's a God, what does it look like? And the question takes him by surprise a bit. But after a while, he says that, yes, he thinks God is, in the end, probably a man. So I say to him, what does it look like? Does he have a beard? Does he wear robes? Does he have long white hair? And he says that the thing about God is that whatever I think he looks like, it will look the absolute opposite to that. And whatever I think he is least likely to look like, then that is what it will look like. So I ask him if him and God looks a bit like Larry Glitter, and tells me not to be so bloody silly. But after I say, if you don't know what it looks like, and you can't tell me what it looks like, and it doesn't look like anything at all, then how do you know is anything more than just an idea, just something you made up? She's 8. We've been going every year. We've talked for years about having a second child, but every time we talk about it, we just think about Lucy, and we just think, you know what? We're happy. We just want her. She's clever. She's funny. And she's very, very pretty. She's Helen's psychic. She's my sweetheart. They make little wisecracks about me. The two of them stand there, sizing me up. But I know that if they take it too far, she'll come running over to me and putting her arms around me because the idea of properly making me sad makes her feel a little bit sick. And well, in the 8 years that she's been born, I fucked a lot of things up, and somehow, by the skin of my teeth, I managed to largely remain unscathed. And me and Helen were doing okay. We got little routines and stuff about a dishwasher or the shopping or cooking, because I really love to cook for her, but compared to her, I'm shit at it. So when she does the cooking, it's properly a treat, you know. We have all these routines, but it's like we fucking love them rather than finding them restricting. Sometimes when you're out in the sea, the force of the waves can crash against you, can knock you over. There have been times when just trying to get out of the sea, I've been knocked over. 2 summers ago, that happened to me. I cracked my coccyx on a stone on the shore's edge, and I flayed about like some kind of huge seal. I was at that moment the mathematical polar opposite of Daniel Craig. It doesn't get like this normally where he is. Normally the sea is warm there, which is quite an unusual feeling for me. I usually swim as far as I think is safe, and then I turn and then swim another 10 strokes, and then I stop and go back. Sometimes you think the tides caught you, you think you're not moving, and you panic. You are. You just need to get on your back, collect your breathing, kick slowly. You're moving. I ask him, where is he? He says, who? I say, God. Where is he? Is he in the sky? Because that's where people used to think it was. Children and medieval people. Is he on the edges of our galaxy? Is he on the edges of our solar system? Because every time we think we've located where it must be, then we discover something else and we realize that God can't be there. Is he 15 billion light years away, on the very edges of our universe? Is he in the parts of the universe that take on the form of the time of the Big Bang, that have that kind of density? Is he there? Is that where he is? He says we don't know everything, Alex. There are things we don't know, there are things we can't explain. I say now. He says, what? I say now. Just because we can't explain them now doesn't mean that they have no reason. It just illustrates the gaps in our knowledge. Just because we can't explain them now doesn't mean that we won't be able to explain them one day, because I think we will. I want to acknowledge something, and it's embarrassing because it's something you will have noticed, but there's a hole running right through the middle of my stomach. It must all have felt a bit awkward, because you can probably see it even in this light. Mostly people choose not to talk about it, but there's some people who tell me that yes, they can see my hole. What's that, Alex? They say. You appear to have a hole running right through the middle of you. I'd started doing okay, you know. I got a sounds stupid, but I got a contract with British Home Stores. I took the photographs for their catalogs and their websites, the men wear, the women wear, the back to school stuff, the homeware. I took so many photographs of cushions and digital alarm clocks and saucepans, and I made so much money from that I can't believe it myself. Uh, 5 weeks ago, just before we go, just before all the packing and frantic stuff about what we're going to take for the flight. Lucy's buying some stuff for us to take with us. She got Lucy all her new stuff. I mean Helen, sorry. Helen was doing the shopping. So she got Lucy cossies and dresses and her books and toys for the flight. And she got me some shades, which were properly puckered. Seriously. Very Puncharello from Chips. And she asks me to come into the bedroom because there's something she wants to show me. When I get there, she's wearing this dress. It's a blue dress with this dropped back. It she asks me to tell her what I think. And I swear for about 30 seconds I couldn't speak. She looked and the idea that I was married to her and that we had our girl and this was our life. There's a man that we visit on our second day in Port Grimaud, and he sells us a case of claret for the equivalent of 15 quid. And it is like heaven. We drank 2 bottles on our second night there. The next day, Helen has to go to the supermarket, and she wants to buy some bread, and we need some shampoo for Lucy, and I need some athlete's foot cream, and we love. They have these little yogurts, these little pots of vanilla flavored yogurts that you can't get in Britain. And she wants to buy some cheese as well. It's fun getting it for the market, but as it goes, it's a proper ripoff. So she wants to go to the supermarket which is where most of the French people go anyway, right? So me and Arthur, we go down with Lucy down to the sea. And there's this bay just near his house. And around the corner of the bay, there's this cove that you can climb onto. And when the bay is busy, you can go to this cove, which is nearer his house and more secluded, and it's very quiet and it's lovely, and we talk about it and we decide to go there. She can go into this world. Did you ever know any kids like that? When she thinks no one's looking, she can just start going further and further into her own imagination, playing games all by herself. Basically what she's doing is she's talking to herself, which some people might find disconcerting, but I just love to watch her. Arthur goes for a swim. One time he looks at me and he says to me, He's in the feeling of water. Sometimes there's the shape of the roll of land. He's in the way some people move. He's in the space between two numbers. Did I ever tell you what the cruelest thing I ever did to anybody was? I'll tell you. I started getting into detective fiction. I have this friend over at St. Mary's University. He tells me detective fiction. Well, everything is detective fiction, and I think is completely wrong. So I tell him Jane Austen is in detective fiction. Franz Kafka is in detective fiction. Bridget Jones isn't detective fiction. Detective fiction is detective fiction. James Elroy. Author is still swimming. I'm reading LA Noir, the bit where the cop and the killer are meeting in a deserted car park around midnight with lights out, neither knowing whether the other one is there. And Lucy is kind of being a Power Ranger. I don't know. It comes back. Yeah, it tells me the water is amazing. Well, he dries his feet, and I notice that the skin of his feet is unusually cracked and battered. It's one of those moments you kind of rumble that is a little old. He tells me I can go for a swim, and I do, and the water is amazing. I wade past the first bank, I get past all the seaweed, and I swim out and out and out around the bay, and then I turn, and wow, at that time of day, light on the Mediterranean is mwah. And then I turn, and I'm about 20 yards out. I can see the houses on the top of the road. Can see Arthur is sitting, reading some history of China. He's really into it. His towel wrapped around his legs, water dripping onto his book. I can see everything from here with real detail. I can see Lucy playing behind him, running about a bit, playing Power Ranger. I can watch them as she does a little bit of a jump. It's odd because he's so into his book that he doesn't seem to notice that she loses her footing on the gravel and the sand of the rock. So what she does is she tries to correct her balance, but in trying to correct her balance, she actually puts more weight on her back foot that slips from underneath her, and it is weird to look at, but she does fall off the edge of this 6-foot high cliff, and she falls backwards on the rock, and I can't hear anything, and it's weird watching with no sound. Like the sound's off on the telly, it's always a bit strange, right? So it takes a while to register before I I turn and swim back to the shore, and I can't breathe properly as I'm swimming, and so I'm panicking, and I have to tell myself, concentrate on your breathing. And I can kind of see him between strokes. He's thrown down his book and jumped off the cliff. And there's this couple that I didn't notice before. They've stopped their sunbathing to run towards where she is, and I notice him pick her up. He's torn between running back to the house to call an ambulance and waiting for me. But I get there in enough time for him not to have to worry about this for too long. I go to her. I take her from him. And what there is, which is surprising to me, is there's a handful of blood in her hair. It's thick and her hair is all chewed up by it. I read that it's a process that it's never absolutely instantaneous, but the injury causes the death of the brain cells, so signals are no longer sent to the lungs, and bit by bit the machine closes down. A blood sticks to my hands. I carry her up the path of the cove, and I haven't bothered getting dried, and people are looking at me, stopping still in their tracks, talking to me in French, and I'm kind of aware that I'm not crying. I look like, fuck, I don't know. I get back into the house with her, and as I'm getting through the sliding glass doors, I bang her head against the wall, and I'm talking to her, and I'm telling her that I'm sorry for hitting her head, but there's part of me thinking, well, why does it fucking matter now? You may as well drag her by her fucking ankle. This bit of meat. This bit of meat and air. I remember I was a bit astonished because one of the ambulance men spoke English, quite good English. And I remember thinking, where the fuck did you live in Southampton of all places? The sound of her closing the door with a bag full of shampoo and cheese and bread takes me completely by surprise. She looks at me across his house. She's wearing sunglasses to protect her against the light. Oh, Jesus fuck. He's sitting in his sofa. His towel still wrapped around his legs. He's a shattered form. He is a man that is completely broken. The little noises he makes. I I leaned over the desk at the check-in at Nice we'd been taken to the front of the queue, and we'd actually been given an upgrade. And while the woman there was sorting all this out, I looked over her at the sheet she was checking on her desk, and there was a list, and it was a list of all the passengers and the crew and the baggage, and at the end of the list it read human remains, which was a bit we're sitting down, the three of us, in the departure lounge. We can't touch one another, we can't look at each other or at anybody else. I turn to him, and this is the cruelest thing I ever did to anybody. I remember, this is a man whom I've known him for 10 years, and I do love him. I look at him, and I say to him, you go back to London, of course, and the noise of the place and the dirt and the color of it all, and I can't actually. What I can't do, at least for now, is work. There's a lie at the heart of photography that I've always cherished. When you take a photograph, what you do is you actually freeze something that's alive. To do this properly, you need more than anything to believe in life. There's a child laughing outside the window, and in his laugh there is absolutely no joy or humor. Warning, this vehicle is reversing. I have a total and complete inability to cry. You see, people, when they say to you that they can't imagine not believing in anything because that would be just too depressing, I think there's something sick in that. The level of cowardice in that is just unbearable to me. I've been home for 3 weeks. If this can happen, anything can happen. Just now there was this couple outside, and they were arguing, and it looked like they were trying to copy characters out of soap operas in the way that they argued, as though the closest they'll ever get to becoming famous is rowing in the streets like they were on EastEnders. The emptiness and fucking vacuous shitness of their lives is just so considerable that the proximity to some characters act as some kind of consolation to them. Helen moves around the house. I'm falling absolutely inside myself. You can see that. You can see that in my but just because we don't know doesn't mean we won't know. Just means we don't know yet. I think one day we will. I think we will.